I should say Kevin is not here today, our sacristan, he's camping. But Liam and Lucas and I, we decided we'd all lock in and be a good team and we'd figure it out together. You're doing great, gentlemen, doing a great job. Has anyone here ever made a prank call? I won't assume it's Lucas's hand is up. I won't assume it's in the last year, perhaps, but maybe in your childhood or a long time ago, you have made a prank call. And if there's a place to confess that, this is the place to confess that. Because I'm not telling you to do it now. Don't go home and do it. But I, too, in my youth, have made a prank call or two. I used to see it in TV and movies everywhere. In The Simpsons, you watch Bart Simpson make a prank call. I used to watch that all the time. And it's a little harder now with caller ID. But back in the day, I was too afraid to prank call someone I didn't know. So I'd call my dad and prank call him. And this was before cell phones. So I would call him at his work, at corporate TD. I'd call his office line to make a prank call. And he'd pick up the phone and I'd say, "Pizza, pizza." He'd say, "What?" I said, "Pizza, pizza. What would you like on your pizza?" And eventually he knew it was me because I kept making the prank call like once a week when I got home from school. So he caught on eventually. But the point when you make a prank call is that the person on the other end of the phone, they think you've got the wrong number. There's no way you're calling the right person. That's the point of a prank call. And that is what is happening in the first reading that Lori read in the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah feels like he is being pranked by God. God is calling the wrong person. And we're at the beginning of the book of Jeremiah here, and so we don't know much about him. We know that Jeremiah is the son of the priest, he lives in Judah, and that God has been speaking to him and continues to speak to him. But we don't know too much about him. We know that he's young based on what he says, maybe a relative term, but he says that he's young. And Jeremiah feels like he's being pranked because God says to him, "You are going to be a prophet. You are going to speak to the people. You're going to turn things up and plant things anew. That's what you're going to do." And Jeremiah says, "No way. I'm too young. You've got the wrong guy." Jeremiah feels like he is being prank called by God. And to be honest, many of us have felt like that in our lives, where you feel God or someone is calling you to something that's just not the job for you. It's just not meant for you to do. Or sometimes we find ourselves in situations just because how life turned out and we think, this is not what I am meant to be doing right now. This is not who I was meant to be. And so we can all feel like we've been prank called. And sometimes, you're right. Sometimes I do a lot of tapping on shoulders here at the church. And sometimes when you're asked to do something, not necessarily by me, but in life, you know that you are stretched too far. You know that you are good at some things and not so good at others. We're all good at things and bad at other things. That's how the world goes round. But sometimes you know when something is just not the right fit for you, and you should say it. But there's other times when we, like Jeremiah, we're insecure about certain things. Or we just never pictured ourselves doing something, so it means we can never ever do it. Sometimes we feel like we should be in the background and not at the forefront. And sometimes we, like Jeremiah, feel like we're being prank called because we never thought we were meant to do something. We never thought we were meant to be called to something. This year, we have been looking at the Diocese of Toronto's calls to action, a little bit of a different kind of call, but 20 calls to action, and we've been looking at the different sections. We talked about it in our parish retreat. We've been talking about it the past few months, and today we're looking at the section called Renewing Spirituality. And this section, Renewing Spirituality, what the diocese asks churches to do is to think about how they can, as individuals, deepen their discipleship. Look at how we are followers of Jesus, how we worship Christ, and how we can do it better, how we can do it differently. This section calls us to evaluate how we are currently committed to children and youth and family ministry, and how we can recommit to it. This section calls us to think about how we can enliven our worship and deepen our faith through our education. This section is all about how we are disciples of Christ, how we live out that faith in this place and beyond this place. And so at the last retreat in February, we had a group of people talking about this section, looking at what St. Peter's is currently doing, ideas for the future, and these are the notes from the October retreat. St. Peter's could have an educational committee to develop education sessions to help us deepen our faith. We need to keep using technology to support our activities and our worship. What are things we can do to continue to engage people online and in the building? We need to learn more about what draws in children and families. What do young families want to learn about in their faith? I'll tell you, if you have that question, ask one of them. Just ask one of them. We'll get some answers. Other notes. A recent study suggests that outreach to men in their 30s is critical, as these folks are looking for connection. How can we connect with these men in our parish and in our community? Perhaps we can create more opportunities for people to read Scripture together. These are big ideas for the church to consider, for us as individuals to consider and think about. Because sometimes faith you can feel like it just seems to happen. We come to church every week, we know when to stand, when to sit, we know when to cross ourselves. We know what's going on here. Sometimes it can feel like faith is just kind of with us, in us. But we are called to more than that. We are called to act. We are called to think. We are called to inspire. What can we do differently? What can we do better? And that can be a really overwhelming thing to think about. Because as you hear, how do we reimagine spirituality? You might think, oh, St. Peter's is perfect. Don't need to do that one. Skip that. We got it all figured out here. Or you might think, there is so much we need to do here at St. Peter's. How will we ever get this started? Or maybe you've never thought about this stuff intentionally before. It's a really big thing to think through. How we worship, how we are disciples, and how we can do it better, not only together, but individually. It can be scary because I'll tell you, if you put 6 people in a room and give them a Bible and tell them to do a Bible study, some people love it and some people will be completely terrified to do that together, especially if a priest is not in the room. But that's what we're called to do, to think about how we can be deeper disciples, how we can recommit to these things in our presence. Jeremiah feels like he's been pranked. He feels like he is not called to do what God is asking him to do. He's too young. He won't have the words. It's not possible for him to be this prophet. And God says to him, Jeremiah, I know you. I have known you since before you were in the womb. God knows all the things that Jeremiah is good at, all the things Jeremiah is not good at, and still calls Jeremiah to act. And perhaps even more comforting, God says to Jeremiah, I will be with you. I will protect you. You are disciples of Christ. You might not feel that way all the time, but you are. And God knows you. God knows all of your gifts. God knows what you struggle with. God knows your insecurities. God walks with you and protects you. And God calls us to faith, calls us to explore our relationship with God, calls us to act in this church, to try new things. Because if it's just my ideas, and if it's just ideas from the past, That is not a living and breathing church. We are all called to move and to act and to reflect together. That is what we are meant to be, what we are meant to inspire. So think about it. Think about the questions you have about your faith. Think about what you've always wanted to learn or what you've always wanted to do. Think about something you've always wanted to see in worship or to do in worship. And tell me, so we can figure out how to move forward together. They all might not work. They all might not be what we do forever. But we need to try. We need to act because we are called to do so. And it is not a prank. God knows us and calls us. And today, let us cherish that. Let us cherish the fact that we are known and loved, and that God is with us and protects us.